Hello and welcome to today's edition of Mermaid Tears. Today I thought that since so many people have been trying their hand at drilling sea glass for the first time, I would show you the few things that I have learnt along the way with the drilling. I haven't been doing it very long either, so bear with me. The first rookie mistake that I made was trying to use my tool without water, and I couldn't figure out why it wouldn't grab, and then my husband told me that you needed water, so that was really handy to know. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that I have learnt or have read about along the way. What you will need before you begin at all is some type of drill or Dremel, and you need diamond bits for it. I got a pack of diamond bits on eBay on Amazon for a really reasonable price, but the tips that I bought are these flat ones. I don't know if you can see that. And so my husband recommended that the next time I buy, I look for these ones here that have a bit of a point, just to get into the sea glass a little bit easier. You'll notice that they do come in different sizes, and that is of course to get different sizes of holes depending on the sea glass. So the first time that I tried to do it, I very literally just had a piece of sea glass. I held it with my fingers and I tried starting first of all with this little bead landing tool that I purchased at Michael's. So I turned it on and pushed, and you can see it just stopped, and it left little burn marks here in my sea glass. So I then decided to try it with the Dremel tool. The first thing that I couldn't figure out was getting the bit in it, and apparently I had to replace the little gold piece inside. I don't know what that's called, but I had to replace that piece to find one that would fit it. And then I took this and again turned it on and pressed down. So you will notice that it just kind of spins and again leaves a little burn tool. So of course I complained to my husband that it didn't work, and he said, "Oh, let me try." And he came and he's like, "It works just fine." And he said it might work easier if you spray it though, instead of going to the bathroom back and forth to wet it. And I'm like, wet it? Oh, okay. So he literally just went to the bathroom. I'm going to spritz it here. So you want a little spritzer with a water bottle and get it wet. And then I'm going to take the Dremel tool again, and I'm going to just show you the difference. So I don't know how easily you can see that, but this time it didn't make the same weird noise, and it actually started a hole without any of the burns or without the weird nasty sound. And so I haven't tried it yet with the Michael's tool, but I assume it will be the same and it'll work. So I'll just spritz that again. And no, I don't think this one's powerful enough. So what you've learnt from here is do not use the one from Michael's. Yeah, the one from Michael's, apparently you can use it, but it'll just take forever. It's meant more for widening holes anyways than for creating new holes. So the bead landing one is not worth picking up if you are trying to create new holes. So if I was to continue going through, I would just hold it on here with my fingers, keep spritzing and keep drilling, and eventually I would get my hole all the way through the sea glass. Now, I'm kind of a klutz and worry when I'm holding it about hitting my fingers. So I was looking online and it said that some people actually use elastic bands to hold it into place. So they just put an elastic band at the top of their piece and then another one at the bottom of their piece to help hold it into place. So that would be having your piece of sea glass in place. Again, you spritz it, line up your Dremel, and go. This time I didn't need to hold it down with my fingers and it still went. I'm not actually sure if you're supposed to start with the Dremel on or off. I find when I start with it off though, if I'm holding it down, maybe I don't hold far enough, but I find it slips naturally. So I'll say that without talking. I find it actually slips if I start with it on the piece of glass. So I actually start with mine on and then line it up to my spot that I want to drill and go down, and then it doesn't slide. Some people will mark their spot with a little bit of a mark where they want to go. I kind of just look at the middle and away I go. So if I do it just directly onto some sort of metal base, I'm going to sit there with my spritzer, spritzing it repeatedly over and over and over again. So what I devised is this very fancy looking method here of using my tool. I basically have a little piece of Tupperware container, a sponge, you can use any side sponge, and a beautiful top from the can of probably soup. And so what I've done is assemble it into this very lovely looking glass drilling tool. So what I'm going to do now is take this piece out, and I'm actually going to fill this with water, just enough that it'll cover. I don't want to fill the whole bottle. And then I'm going to take my piece of sea glass, and I'm going to elasticate it, that's my word for the day, on to, oops, not with that elastic because it just snapped, elasticate it onto my piece here. Now, if I do it on this side, you'll notice it's just going to keep sliding because of the lip here. So you want to make sure that if you're using the lid, you elasticate it on the other side where it's smoother. So I have elasticated my piece here. And then I'm going to put it inside my lovely, beautiful contraption that I have invented. And you can see when I push down, it gets wet instantly. So now, when I turn my Dremel on and push down, rather than having to hold it with my fingers, especially with smaller pieces, I can just turn it on, find my spot and push down, and you'll notice it sinks right into the water. And so there it stays wet, and I can keep going that way until it has actually drilled right through my piece of glass. This one is a thick piece of glass, so it would take a little bit longer, but you can see how the hole has started, or maybe you can't. I probably should have done a different color sea glass. This method works for any size piece, and you can just line it up and keep going, and then you just fill the water as you go for the process once it starts to evaporate. I've seen some people who will do it just directly onto a damp sponge. This one here is a little too wet. So they will just put their piece of glass right onto the damp sponge and press down. Now that works nicely because I still have a bit of give there, but it doesn't keep my piece of sea glass wet. So if I try to keep going, it will again start to leave that little bit of a burn mark. So I still have to sit and spritz it. So the sponge adds that little bit of give, but I would still need to spritz. Whereas with this beautiful contraption that I have created, it gives me the base that I need for the solid background, the sponginess that I need to push down, and the water. If you are having a hard time with elastics with the smaller pieces, I have seen people start with some double-sided tape to hold it down into place. I've never tried that method, but maybe it would work. I've also literally, even though I'm kind of clumsy, just held my piece of glass with my fingers in between, kind of in a Y shape, and pushed down and hope for the best, and away I go. The other reason that I did this size of a container versus a lower one is if for some reason my piece breaks in half, which it has done, the pieces tend to stay inside of the container rather than fly out, although I suppose you probably should theoretically still wear some glasses just in case pieces do decide to fly away on you. Thank you so much for joining me on this really quick special edition of Mermaid Tears. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them below, or of course contact me on www.mermaidtears.ca, and I hope that you have yourself an absolutely fabulous day.